It is Cherie from Big Notes Get Votes, and I am doing that precarious dance of going live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram up there. And I'm hoping I've got a little mic on, so I'm hoping that the quality of the sound is better for you today, Instagram. Let me know if there are any issues at any point, and hopefully you can see me. I know it's the weirdest thing. I've got Instagram like positioned up there on a stand. You can see all the weirdest things, but hey, we're here and we're going to talk about one of my favorite things. Basically, we're going to talk about my performance preparation secrets. And yes, it's a checklist because I like to have things, I like to make my life easier because there's often a lot of stuff that's going on in our lives as humans, mums, performers, all of the hats that you wear. You might want to make life a little easier for you with a little bit of a system. And I know it's not normal that creatives are like super system oriented. I don't think we realize it, but we actually are. It's more of like a workflow thing. So, this today is my checklist, which I call the song study checklist. And now, this whole month of August, I've been going live every week to answer questions. So, if you have any questions, chuck them in the chat. DM me, pop them down as a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. I'll try and, if I see them come up, I'll answer them. But otherwise, I'll go back after this and I will answer them, or I'll make a whole video for you. I've got 2 great questions already lined up for videos. One about the effect of hormones on your voice, and it is a thing. And also breath management. That's the eternal question I get asked. Or I think that singers have in the back of their head. And so I'm going to do a couple of videos about that coming in the future. But back to today's video, my pre-performance secret weapon is a checklist that I call the song study checklist. So what I'm going to take you through today are the 3 things that really help to get ready for performances when you are learning a song. When you're in the pre-performance, I like to think about it kind of like the rehearsal phase. These are the tips that you're going to want to have a think about. So, first and foremost, when you're learning songs, and let me just interject myself with saying that as a professional singer, I'm often being given songs to learn, whether it's for a session or whether it is for a gig. And that makes it a little bit easier, of course, because I already have the content, so to speak. But if you are in a position where you need to select songs for yourself, the very first week of these lives, I'll pop a link to it. It is how to select the best songs for your voice and make it your own. So that's the first thing we started talking about. So we've got some ways to pick songs, but say you've already got your songs. Here's the thing. This is where the workflow of the system comes in place. What are the steps that you want to start with to make things easier for yourself, to learn the songs as fast as you can, and also to be able to sing it, in the best way that you can, but be also to make it your own? Here's the secret. The first thing that you want to start with, of course, after you've picked the song or you've had a look at the song, is to be sure that you kind of understand the story and the lyrics, which I talked a little bit more about in that very first live I did earlier this month. But technically, and also as a stylistic tool, but I'll talk more about that in a second, you do want to start with breath. And breath is the energy for your voice. So it's the breath pressure comes up underneath the vocal folds, vibrates the vocal folds. There are a couple of other things that you can do. There's onsets, how the vocal folds come together at the start of the sound. It can be quite technical, but we want to start really simply with, where do you want to breathe? So when I was studying voice technique, the first year of my studies with Berkeley Online, we were given, it's a 12-week program, and we were given a song a week with a technical focus to spotlight each week. And I can't remember the exact order of it, but breath management was one of the key weeks, of course. And we were given these lead sheets, which is essentially like it's the music has the melody, sometimes the chords, the lyrics. So it's kind of an all-in-one kit and caboodle. And what you can do is you can mark out the ornamentation or articulation, I should say, where you're going to breathe. Now, if you're just looking at a sheet of lyrics, I would either put a comma or a forward slash, and that marks out like my intentionality as to where I want to breathe. Often there are natural places where we pause and, and as we're speaking. You can use that tool of speaking as a tool to inform how you might naturally take a breath in the lyrics. But then, of course, there's melody as well, and all the different variances that you have to navigate. So it's a little complex. So we just start real basic with the story. We say, where does it make sense in the phrase, in the lyrics, to breathe? So if you, usually it's at the beginning and the end of the line, depending on how challenging the song is, but you can just mark it out as a place to think about where you'd like to breathe. If it's your own song, an original, or if it's a cover, either way, you can be really super intentional with breath. So that's where I like to start. The cool thing with breath, that you can actually end up making it a stylistic tool, so an ornament in your singing. And one of the great examples that, rest in peace, Olivia Newton-John, I always use this as an example. She's just such a beautiful singer. There's so much nuance to her voice, but in particular, her phrasing, super smart. Things like the song, I love you, I honestly love you. Now, you can take that line and you can sing it in one breath. I love you, I honestly love you. And, it doesn't sound bad, but that little breath in the middle just kind of, it's like, oh my God, I love you. It almost kind of sounds like she's crying, right? So you can use breath or breathing as a stylistic tool. Another beautiful example where it actually is informed by the lyrics or the storytelling is the song Never Enough from The Greatest Showman, which is my eternal song study, because there are particular elements in the song that are really challenging for me. But that's it. I digress. In the very first line, the lyric is, I'm trying to hold my breath. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to hold my breath. And then she goes, let it stay. And then she kind of keeps singing. And so it's so cool because the lyrics inform where she breathes. It becomes this beautiful moment that the production get behind by dropping out and supporting the vocal, which is just so cool. So using breath as a tool, both just for like, how much air do I need to sing this line, is a great way of making the technical aspects easier. Because one thing that I ask my coaching clients to do is to adjust the breath based on what it is that they're asking their voice to do. One big breath for every task often isn't as efficient in the sound production process as it could be, because if you, and I'm thinking back to my pre-vocal training self, I would run like scales and I would do this like la 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 la. And then I'd have all this air to breathe out at the end. And it kind of made me think, well, look, why don't I adjust my breath? So if I don't have a long phrase ahead of me, I don't know if I need as much air. And you just tend to build up tension in the muscles that are around or your larynx to hold that air in reserve. And trust me, we've got a lot of air in reserve. We could like push all our air out and it would take a lot longer than the average phrase. So that's something I want you to think about. The intentionality of the breath, just to make life easier for singing. Where does it naturally support the storytelling? Are there any ways that you can enhance the storytelling, make it your own by using breath? That's the first trick. Figure out where to breathe. Then the second trick is to think about how you want to tell the story using your voice quality choices. So voice qualities are this amazing, amazing tool that you can use in storytelling and singing, where we're often using primal sounds that we hear all the time that actually trigger or are a part of the sound production process. For example, crying is very similar in its larynx positioning to head voice, if you want to use like sort of older bel canto terminology. And that is where we sing a lot in our head voice, or what I call or have learned to call cry or sob quality. So if you're emoting or you have a passage that you're working through and there it calls for some intense or heightened emotions, you can kind of be like, okay, well, I'm going to use a head voice or a cry quality to really enhance this emotion versus maybe more of a speech quality or a chest voice you might have heard to referred to before, or a belt, which I kind of like to think of as happy yelling. So choosing the voice quality and aligning it with the sort of primal, I guess how I like to think of it is how you hear the sound in everyday use. So like, for example, in belting, you don't kind of hear people belting when they're talking. It would be more like happy yelling, like at a rugby game. Here in New Zealand, rugby's massive, but where you'd be like, hey, yeah, I'm trying to lean back so I don't blow out the microphones, but where you really hear that energized, loud noise, and it can be angry or it can be happy. But ideally, we're singing most of the time. We're happy yelling, I think. I don't want to generalize, but let's call it happy yelling. And then in speech, kind of chest voice is very much heard in conversational tonalities. Or when you turn on the news, very presenter like, hey, today we're coming live to you from blah, 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 blah. And it's a lot more, it's utilized to deliver information, or it can be quite conversational. So I'm currently using my speech quality right now to talk to you. And so these are tools that you can be conscious of. Or if, when I was doing my Olivia Newton-John tribute just before, I was using my cry quality or my head voice. I love you. I honestly love you. A little bit more emotive. So that should hopefully give you some examples of different ways or conventional ways that you can use voice qualities to help the storytelling. But you gotta know what they are and how they help to inform the storytelling. So that's the next choice I make. I go through the song, I work out where I'm going to breathe, I decide what voice qualities I'm going to use, and sometimes that can be informed by the melody in the sense of what is the key of the song and where does that sit in my voice. Now, in the first week of these lives, I did talk about changing the key, doing a vocal range assessment, and I can link you to the video of how to do that. I walk you through it. But also knowing where your vocal coordination change points are. Some people refer to these as vocal breaks, knowing where they are and being able to navigate them with control and ease. And so sometimes if a song is a little bit challenging for whatever reason, sometimes it can be that, but you'd want to, which is my next point, you want to figure out where the tricky spots are in the song. So that's point 3. But let's hop back 1 second. If you need to change the key to make it a bit more comfortable, get it into your sweet spot so that you can really access those voice quality choices. I better mute hopefully it doesn't mess with anything, all my notifications popping up. Yeah, you want to be able to be really intentional with the voice qualities, and sometimes it's easier if you are using, if you're in a key that you have more control or that spotlights your sweet spot a little bit more. So that can help. But what if you're given the song and you can't change the key? Well, that's where knowing how to navigate those voice qualities come in really handy. And the reason you might be given a song that you can't change the key of, I'm a professional singer. Main gig at the moment is as a backing vocalist. And the whole point of me being there is to support the lead singer, Joel. So I'm not going to be like, hey, Joel, this is not very good for me. I need to change the key. Well, I might say that to him jokingly, but in real life, it wouldn't happen. So what needs, all the keys are already set because they've recorded albums. I need to make the adjustment to support the lead vocalist. And that's where I use my voice quality choices as an opportunity to make it easier for me to sing. So it's not just the storytelling, it's also technical as well, which is all of these points, to be fair. Third point, part of my song study checklist is that I look at all the things that are challenging me and I do a little bit of troubleshooting. And I use my Singers Technique Toolkit. So, what I've done over all the years of singing, which is kind of coming close to about 35 years professionally now, I started off completely not knowing anything about singing. I studied the last 10 years and I used my experience and what I've learned and continue to learn to make what I call my Singers Technique Toolkit. This then became a tried and tested, the tools were tested by me when I was doing gigs. Then I started using them in my vocal coaching. I've coached over, like literally over 100 singers, maybe even more, and helped them to get the same results that I was feeling, which is just basically confidence. You just want to know that you can figure stuff out, you can troubleshoot. And then I made it into an online course, which is opening tomorrow, but I'll tell you about that in a second. And so having this technique toolkit at your hip helps you to troubleshoot. So when you're going through the song, you've worked out where to breathe, you've decided on the voice quality choices, and this can be both from a technical, like a technique perspective, or a storytelling perspective. Then you go back and you troubleshoot. Part of troubleshooting means you isolate, you break down tricky spots, you get your technique toolkit, you overlay it, you figure it out. What is the best tool to make this easy for me to sing and to tell the story I want to tell? And so those 3 steps really is what I do literally for every single song that I ever have to learn. That is the process of learning the songs. And it definitely makes me feel gig ready because I've really broken down the song. I've worked out how to make it suit my voice or how to get my voice into it, into the song. And that is definitely all thanks to my Singers Technique Toolkit. Speaking of which, tomorrow I am opening the doors to this online version of my in-person coaching curriculum. So it's an 8-week course and it starts on Monday, the 5th of September. It's live. So there's a little bit of pre-recorded, but most of it is going to be like this, where every week I'll be coming to you and we have a private group coaching session. So I'll set you some singing tasks, give you resources and templates and anything else you need to support your vocal journey, development journey. And we'll work through it. And at the end of 8 weeks, you'll have your very own Singers Technique Toolkit that you can draw from to help you feel confident about singing. Because I think that that's what it comes down to. And like, I am beyond excited to teach. I'm so excited to share everything with more people. And online is so great because that's how I learned singing. So I'm all for the online learning of singing and continue to learn. My vocal coach / singing teacher, I'm getting so excited. I'm like spitting. She's based in Melbourne. So I would have to like get on a plane in the first wee while when I was training. She came here one time. I did a 5-day course with her, like intensive, 9 till 6 every day. And group as well too. And then I went and saw her. She was doing a course in Sydney. And then I did practice groups with her online in the interim. And it's the best thing I've ever done. And so it's exciting to be able to share this with both my existing coaching clients and invite new people to join. So I'll post on Instagram, on Facebook, and here in the YouTube community as well when the course, when the doors open essentially, and send you the link so you can have a look at what it's all about and you can ask me any questions. But the song study, coming back to why we're here today, the song study checklist definitely is something that I will be delving deep into and really sharing all of the technique toolkit, the troubleshooting tools that are in there. I had the coolest chat with one of my coaching clients yesterday who was saying that it's just so exciting to be able to know this, have this information, not only for yourself, but to share it with others. And he was coaching some kids and he was so excited because he's like, I used the techniques in the toolkit and the kids got it straight away. And it was so cool to see them kind of responding so well. And that's just a general thing. We were laughing because I was like, yeah, pass on that vocal wisdom tool, stick, pass it around. And that's how I feel about it because it's important that you feel good about singing. It's important that you have tools that you can call on and that you just know how your voice works and what's best for you so that you can tell stories the way you want to tell them, not lose your voice. And that's also something we'll talk about in the Singers Technique Toolkit, because as much as techniques are about, developing and strengthening your voice, they're also about looking after your voice. So that's all part of it. And in that, my pre-performance checklist not only consists of the song study checklist of working out where to breathe, understanding the story and deciding on the voice qualities and then troubleshooting. I also have like a vocal health checklist that I use in the 72 hours before a performance. So yeah, it's all about getting ready, feeling good. And I'm hoping that some of the moments in the song study checklist today have been helpful for you. Let me know, like, what's your process? Do you have a process? You have zero process? Is it similar to what I've shared with you? Would you try it this way? Let me know if you have any questions. And if you've made it all the way through to the end, you're amazing. Thank you so much for hanging about. Got questions? Pop them below. There is one more week of live Q&A slash vocal coaching workshops to go, which is next Wednesday. It's New Zealand Standard Time, 1:00. Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's like the day prior because New Zealand's ahead. Or 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. There we go. I got there in the end. So yeah, come back, ask questions. I'll let you know when the Singers Technique Toolkit opens tomorrow. And let me know how you go trialing out my secret weapon, pre-performance secret weapon, which is my song study checklist. These in particular are working out where to breathe, working out what voice qualities you need to use, and then troubleshooting. That's where it's at. Thanks again for joining me. Have an amazing day, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow or next week. Bye.